It's Bobbbaaaay, and we back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only Bobbbaaaay. Today, I'm in Century City, Los Angeles. If you're visually watching, we're not in the studio space. I'm sitting down with my man, Michael Trueblood, another Massachusetts native.
Very proud to be one.
Very proud
What's
to
up,
be
my
one.
guy?
And sometimes I flex and I tell people I'm the #1 tour manager in the world. And I have to say that is not the case today because you have definitely a higher level than me. So
I've been around the block once or twice.
been around the block a couple times, man. Super stoked to get you on the show, man.
Super stoked to be here, man.
It's
Very
crazy for some people that are listening. If you haven't heard Carter Reeves' podcast, I can't recall which number he was. Go back because a lot of this stuff is going to connect to. But what's crazy is that I met Michael 6 years ago. I think we were trying to do the math.
6 years ago, yeah.
And man, it's crazy how much has happened since then. You were touring with Air. You guys were just three of you in your Toyota Highlander.
We were in my
cruising
Toyota
around
Highlander,
town.
yeah, that my mom let us borrow for the tour.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah, dude, you got to start somewhere, man.
Yeah.
I mean, those are when I look back at all the touring, those are a lot of my most fun memories. Is touring around in either Carter's dad's company car, his Honda Pilot with the headlight out, riding around with the fucking high beams on the whole time, or in my mom's car with the broken back windows that don't roll down.
Just gotta get there. You gotta get there. Whatever's gonna make it work, you have to get there.
Exactly.
Who is Michael Trueblood today, and how young is he?
I am 25 now.
25, quarter cent.
Yeah, quarter cent. About to be off. About to have to get my own health insurance. Going to be really dope.
That's a 26, right?
That's 26. Yeah, real close.
I got a couple years.
Real close. Live in LA now. Mm-hmm. Tour managing for Louis the Child.
That's
my
awesome.
boys out of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's me in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. We're about to get real into it. That's just a little glimpse of.
That's like the shell
of who you are, I should say.
Yeah.
But let's take it back. I definitely touched upon a lot about Wayland with Carter's podcast. But for you, how do you think growing up in the Northeast has helped you become who you are today?
I mean, growing up in the Northeast, you got some weather. I can start on the weather.
You got some weather. You definitely got some weather.
Whether it's the winters, which are obviously fucking terrible. Then you have the rainy spring, and then you have the 1 month of perfect weather, and but there's pollen everywhere.
Horrible.
Allergies
kick in.
If you're not born with allergies, you're gonna develop them in May in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And then it's summer and it's humid, and then it's humid all summer, and after that, fall is also beautiful. You got September, October, 2 favorite months of the year in Massachusetts, but those winters, I feel like if you've never experienced a winter, I can come out to LA and I adjust and I'm like, damn, this is beautiful. I could live here for the rest of my life, but then you go back to, the Northeast and you experience that weather, all the bullshit that comes with the weather, whether it's the shoveling or just your socks were super wet today, or, you slip on some black ice and eat shit.
Yeah.
Done all those things. Yeah. Done all those things, I don't know. I think just growing up like that, in that kind of just wild card weather environment where you can experience actual 4 seasons of weather. And a city like Boston or any of the cities in New England are so tight knit, small town type cities.
It's that cold weather. I swear that will change somebody.
Yeah.
You come out here, people are complaining, oh, it's 60 degrees. It's cold out. I'm screaming
my God.
inside. I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to go start your car in 20 degrees. You're freezing. You got to scrape off the ice. And it shapes you.
Your door's frozen. Closed,
that's the worst. You're trying to shimmy it.
Come on, fuck! Get some hot water.
God,
dude, shit sucks.
It is, but I swear, I credit so much of who I am and the way I almost my work ethic, because the winter months it's a grind. You have to just keep your head down, bundle up, get from A to B, and
dude, just
do what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because the weather's absolutely trash doesn't mean that you don't have responsibilities to do. It's going to be harder to do those or take care of those responsibilities.
But you have to get through it.
It creates a deeper level of character and a deeper level of, just how to grind it out and how to get shit done.
What was your favorite job growing up and why?
Man, I did a lot of just home type work, painting houses and kind of I never did any carpentry or anything like that, but just maintenance. I did those were the only jobs that I really held before tour managing, other than like volunteering at,
You're out there on the ladder painting the buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
That's a huge job. I remember a bunch of my buddies in high school, they got like the summer internships, quote unquote, for the schools, and they'd go in and paint the walls.
Dude, I did this one job the summer I started tour managing. I guess it was the last job that I'll ever have outside of the music industry, at least beforehand. And I worked maintenance for a real estate company in Mass, and so I would go around to all their different commercial real estate places, whether it be a strip mall or an office building, and I would take care of all the maintenance at these places. And I'd start at like 6 a.m. and I'd finish at like 3:30 p.m. and I'd go to baseball practice or baseball game or whatever. But doing that physical labor, you're 18, 19, let's say I worked in Plymouth every day for like 2 weeks straight. And so
what's a Wayland to
like
Plymouth?
An hour and 15,
that's
hour and 20 minutes.
That's a commute, man.
And like when in traffic, there were times where it took me over 2 hours. It's like, this sucks. And I'm going here to paint some walls white.
Tedious.
Like,
over and over and over.
Over and over again. And I would just listen to some 90s hip hop at the time, or like some Chili Peppers, and just kind of like I'd be alone. I'd just grind it out, zone out. But it was I felt like I learned a lot about just myself and the type of work that, how you
Where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, I was
almost.
I'm like, is this? I mean, obviously, this isn't my end game.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna, do this for the rest of my life. But
yeah,
it certainly helped enforce that and helped me realize that, like, okay, if all else fails, like, you're gonna be back at square one with no college degree. This is some type of stuff that you're gonna end up doing.
Yeah.
So you better not end up back here.
This is not where we want to be.
We're not ending up back here.
This is a quick little short stop, and we're going to keep it moving.
Yeah, this is that, like, I just came home from college, I need a job type thing. This is not an all day.
This is not going all in. Did you ever think baseball was possibly going to be, like, the ultimate where you would go? Because you ended up going to Roger Williams, spent baseball, a semester there.
Yeah, I was there for, like, a semester and a half.
But did you ever actually see, even maybe when you were in high school, was it like, I want to be the next MLB player, or was it just a passion and you said, I just want to
When I was
playing?
like 15, 16, and I really thought that I could make something out of baseball. I really thought that I could, like, at least, and I had some coaches telling me the same thing.
What position?
Shortstop.
Shortstop.
Yeah. But I could play any position in the field besides catcher because I have bad knees. But, I really felt like I could make something out of it. And I thought I would make something out of it. And I still loved baseball enough. And my high school coach hadn't really ruined it for me yet. But also, as I went through junior year, summer baseball, playing all these showcases and everything. And I'm like, I started, the summer showcases. Like, I really didn't do anything in high school. I really didn't do any of my homework. I was late all the time. I was probably stoned in class or something. I just didn't. I didn't even care. I didn't care. I just messed around. Like, it didn't take it seriously whatsoever. So I had probably a 2.3 GPA, which is not reflective of how intelligent I am, which is hilarious to think.
School doesn't show.
No.
You want to do great. You want kids to do great in high school, but that has no.
The structure just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm going to all these showcases. They're like, "What's your GPA?" All these college coaches, all these college scouts are coming. "What's up? What's your GPA?" Like, oh well, I got a 2.3. They're like, okay, well, you're pretty good, but there's nothing we can do for you here at Bates or Colby or like any of these, all these D2 schools. They're like real interested in me and everything, but my GPA was just too low.
Yeah.
So I think that was a huge wake up call for me, because you got like this thing that feels so unrelated to school, but you need school to push you to the next level. And I was good, but I hadn't been put in front of any D1 scouts because I wasn't that good. So all that together, I think that was a big wake up call for me. And I realized, like, I'm going to end up going to some D3 school that isn't going to really, get me anywhere. And I'd manifested this myself, which is just part of like how crazy the human mind is and how you can take yourself somewhere that might not be true. Because who knows? I think I was still great at baseball. I still had all this harnessed talent, and I just didn't know what to do with it, and didn't have anyone around that could really help me figure out what to do with it. So I ended up just falling out of love with the game. And
that was a good pivot time, though. Because falling out of love, you were in college, but then that was also the beginning of kind of the air days when things were kind of just Just starting off.
It's true. Yeah.
Just starting off.
Yeah. The timing of that realization versus the other opportunities that were about to come.
Obviously, you didn't realize it at the moment, but when you look back on it, it couldn't have been better timing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it felt like it was meant to be, but obviously, I had no idea that it was actually meant to be. And look back now, 7-8 years later, and you're like.
So when it was kind of getting started, talk to me about what was going through your head. You're stepping away from college. This isn't the right path for you. You have your homies that are just making music, sending it through to you, getting your rundown. You're like the mini A&R, giving them feedback.
Yeah. Just
what was going
homie
through your
feedback.
mind? Like, what was?
I mean, I guess I didn't really know. I mean, I really didn't know. I love music. I would always, people would hit me up before they were having parties in high school and ask me to bring like my iPod and play music for the party.
You were that guy who always had the playlist ready.
I was definitely that guy in high school who always had the playlist. I just would sit on the blogs in high school instead of doing homework and look for new music.
I love it.
That was, that was like a big part of how I just felt like I wanted to do something music related, and I didn't want to make music. I never really tried, but I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just thinking like, well, this is sweet. Like I get to just hang out with my friends while they make music. I get to like give them my 2 cents that they care about. They'll listen, and maybe I'll tell them that I don't like this part of the song and they should try doing this, and they'll listen. And that was really cool to know that they respected my opinion enough to just ask somebody who doesn't even play music or make music.
What do you think of this? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Yeah. And actually, take into account what I had to say. And that was cool. And that's really how it started out. It's just them showing me their music and me giving them my 2 cents, and what kind of music video ideas did we see? Like what kind of branding did we see? And that was where we all started off. And I really wasn't even thinking like at the time, oh, I could tour manage you, because I didn't know what a tour manager was. That artist.
You're just like the best friend. You're just the best friend helping out.
Like I was just the friend manager. Which people usually are like, oh no, the friend manager. And I was definitely that friend manager to start out, where I just didn't really know what I was doing, just kind of like do the best for my boys. And that was really all I knew how to do. I didn't really know any of the the language or anything, literally anything. And after I decided, I was going to take a year off of college in the summer of 2011, Carter and Dave were like, well, we're not going to college. They'd already decided we're not going to college.
We got something going.
We're not going to go to college for a year, and we're going to just spend this year trying to figure out how to make it successful and try to make more music and make more music videos and move out of our parents' places and just do it. And so they asked me if I wanted to just be there and come along for the ride. And then they eventually realized with their manager, who's also from Wayland, who's still a successful music manager now, and he lives in New York. And they, asked me to be their tour manager, and I was like, sure, yes. What's a tour manager? And then I, met with Max, and we figured out kind of what we thought a tour manager was, because neither of us really knew. I mean, he was in school for music. He was at the Bandier program in Syracuse, so he had a better grasp on what a tour manager was. So.
What is an actual tour manager? I want for some people that might not know. My tour, like I said, my touring experience is very small scale and nothing to the scale of what you're actually dealing with nowadays. But what is the role of a tour manager?
I mean, each tour is different. Each crew is different. Each artist requires a different type of tour manager and a different tour manager. That some want their tour managers to be their friends, and like some people want a tour manager that's kind of just going to handle everything, all the logistics and all the road accounting, and just stay behind the scenes. They don't have too much interaction with the band. Some people want a tour manager who's just kind of like, going to get in people's faces and, kind of be a dick and do this, do that.
Yeah.
I'm not really, I'm not that type of guy. Everybody can turn that on, but, there's people that let that define them. And I think those people are the ones that are kind of fading away, that like stereotypical asshole tour manager. But you're kind of, I don't want to say you're a glorified babysitter, but in some situations you are, for adults, which is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. That part is always funny, but that's what some people will call it. You're also kind of like, a lot of people look up to you and you make a lot of the decisions. You lead by example. Some people try to lead by like vocal leading and like that type of thing. But I always felt like it was the most effective way to lead. And I did this in sports too, growing up, is lead by example. And I wasn't always the most vocal person, but when I did have something to say, people would always listen. So I kind of figured that type of leadership was the most way. And really, you're just the leader of the tour,
Yeah. You're the one that's telling everybody, this is where we need to be. You need to go do this.
If I'm pissed off one day when I show up to the venue, chances are my crew is going to end up getting pissed off because it's a trickle down effect, And if I'm super cool with everybody and I'm, everything is smooth and not high stress, then it's going to trickle down that way in some form or another. Everybody has their different departments that, shit happens in, but I've always felt like, tour manager is just the most successful tour managers just stay on top of their stuff. Whenever they have anything to do, you do it right away. You don't sit on it, even if it's a 2-second task, 2-minute task that you can get done at any time. Once you have a task, do it, get it done with, so you can move on to the next thing. And focus on the next thing. Make sure that you're always able to stay in the moment while thinking about the future and anything that might occur.
One thing I've learned too is that you have to treat everybody that you're coming into contact at equal value. So it's not even just the person that's paying you at the end of the night, but the bartender, the guy who's running the sound. Treat all of the people that are in that operation for the night. Treat them great, because exactly they are there to help make your night great. And if there isn't that equal communication line with them, it just hurts. It hurts everybody.
The tour manager is like the direct representation of the artist. And you are literally the representative of the artist in every city that you go to on tour as the tour manager. So people be like, oh, the Louis the Child tour manager, he was a dick, So those guys.
They're not saying about that.
No,
about
they don't. But they don't say that. I mean, at least I don't think so. But I'm sure somebody says that. But you can't please everybody.
You can't please everybody.
If someone's fucking up the show, you got to call them on it. But it's you're the direct representative of the artist, and so whatever they think of you is going to translate to what they think of the artist in a lot of these situations. And whilst maybe like I'm a dick, but the guys are so nice, so it doesn't really matter. And then but they'll be like, why do they employ a dick if they're not dicks? And a lot of people just assume the artists are, if the tour manager is. And that's something that I don't really run into that very often, because I try to treat everybody pretty
you're from Boston, man. You're a good person. What I mean?
I rub people, us massholes, we do rub people the wrong way sometimes when we get a little intense. We start talking real fast. People think we're pissed off. We're really just right to the point. Very direct.
Keep it honest with you.
Keep it honest. That's the fastest way to get shit done. You don't got to beat around the bush. Just get it done. Do it.
Absolutely.
And everyone's going to be happy. It's all going to be efficient. You're going to have plenty of time.
I want you to think back to 2014. You guys were on the road for 231 days. 4 U.S. tours, 2 regional tours, a Europe tour. You're doing festivals, fly-out dates. What was one of the biggest sacrifices you had when you guys were on the road for that long period of a time?
I think that was the year when I was tour managing Air and Hoodie Allen. And
it was both.
It was both of them.
Oh, it was both.
That's
of them.
why
Okay.
it was
I had found that, and I assumed that it was just all Air.
It was not just Air. It was both Hoodie Allen and Air. So I was kind of switching. I did 2 U.S. tours for each of them, and all the other stuff was just Air. But I was switching off. So I'd be working on a tour each. I mean, I had no personal life that year, like 0 personal life. It was just you're a tour manager and that's it. And, you're only home for a month out of the whole year. And
that's just cut. And that's cut up. Like
you're
home
cut
for
up,
like 2 days here, 3 days, 4 days.
And most of that was in January. Or I had like 2 weeks off in January.
No,
I'm not going outside. I was still living in Mass and like just shoveling for my mom. Like, that year, man, I mean, I got really sick at the end of that year. I think the last 10 days of the last tour, I got bronchitis and a double ear infection. I really didn't take care of myself well enough on that tour. And
did that relate to the tour?
I think it was just the whole year of no time off and not really much sleep at all. And the adrenaline, once my mind started to realize that the tour was coming to an end, my body kind of followed suit and was like, you're exhausted. Now you're sick. And I wasn't partying on, that tour, that last tour at all, really. I was up late every night, up early every morning, which is most of what did it. And I had a lot of roles on that last tour and filled in the gaps in a lot of places where we were short-staffed. So I think I was just spread so thin at the end of that year. And I think the biggest takeaway for me was since then, I've always eaten really well on tour.
Yeah.
I mean, I work out a lot before the tours. I never get to work out on tour
At all.
I'd rather sacrifice my time to catch up on some work or sleep or something. So every now and then I'll be able to, but usually I'd rather spend my time just relaxing,
getting stuff done, or finally taking a second to just breathe,
to just kick it. Yeah. Watch something on Netflix or something, or go to the movies or whatever.
So that was a full year of just head down doing what you needed to do.
Full year head down. I mean, I was not making very much money at the time. I was 21 and 22, and
it's still early to the game.
That was my first year where I really felt that I knew what I was doing as the tour manager, and where I was figuring it out. The 3 years before that, I felt like I was never really confident in what I was doing, and I knew what to do to get by, but I was never really confident in say like what my role was supposed to be. I still didn't really fully understand what a tour manager was until 2013, when I went out with Hoodie Allen, and his tour manager hired me to be his assistant.
So you got to directly learn from somebody that was clearly, I mean, those guys were that
tour,
year.
We did a lot of big shows on that tour.
Huge shows.
Yeah.
Huge shows.
We did 2 shows at Roseland Ballroom to end the tour in New York, which no longer exists.
How many, and what's the capacity on that?
I think it was 3,500. So we did 2 in a row. So that was like, I had never even, I don't think I had ever even been to a show that big as a patron.
3,500 people. Mm-hmm. That is deep. And that's 2 back-to-back too.
Yeah, we did 2 in a row, which are the best because you just get to walk away after the first show.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, 2014, I certainly learned a lot about myself and a lot about how to take care of myself. And, like during the summer, I gained a lot of weight, and we were out on tour where I had catering at 3 meals a day for the first time on the Dirty Heads tour.
The first time, because all the other tours is just fend for yourself,
fend for yourself, or like maybe they'll take care of dinner or lunch or something. But I'd never had like 3 meals catered every day, and we were on some amphitheater tour, and it was like, wow,
I can eat as much as you want.
Yeah, I'm not going to be hungry on this tour.
Yeah,
and I wasn't. And I was like 200 pounds at the end of that tour.
Yeah. And
I mean, I lost all the weight pretty quickly afterwards, because I was like, damn, I got to get back in the gym. But and then I got really sick at the end of the next tour. So it was really a wake up call in the sense that you might be 21, 22 years old, but you still got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not like I ate terribly. I just ate a lot. And so then next year I started eating, like surviving more off like fruit and just, some yogurt.
Reassessing your diet, making sure you're eating the right things.
Taking more vitamins, just keeping it lean, eating a lot more salads, just light things, cut out red meat,
See, I didn't realize that you were already starting to tour with other people with Air. I thought that.
I started in 2013 touring with other people.
I had originally thought that when Air was kind of coming to an end, you were at a split in the road of like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
I've been touring with these guys. This is something I just want to continue to do. Let's keep going with
That did happen, though. I mean, that did happen. I was still working. I worked for Hoodie Allen and Air at the same time for a while. And I filled in other gigs in there with Air when Air wasn't touring here and there until they broke up, which was spring 2016. But I definitely hit a crossroads when they broke up. Like, I did not know if I was going to keep tour managing. Maybe I'll go back to school. Do I even like tour managing that much? Because, I just got into it with my friends.
With your friends, exactly.
So I wasn't
you didn't really
sure.
say, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, here's a role with my homies. Let's just go on the road and see where it goes.
Exactly. And everything that I did up until that point was really just for Air, and I tried to become a better tour manager so I could represent Air better, because I just wanted to, make my friends successful and represent them the proper way. And so then it really became more of a personal time when I was like, so what am I going to do for me now? And I kept tour managing and taking other gigs, and still wasn't in love with it. I was like jumping. It's not like I wasn't having a good time on tour or working with bands that I didn't like, but I would just have to go from one artist to the next, to the next, to the next. I had like 6 tours in a row. It was all different artists.
Oh, man.
And it's just so hard
who were the 6 artists, if you can easily recall them?
Tribal Seeds, Chef Special, Our Last Night. I subbed a show for Louis Del Mar one weekend, The Knox, and Lauv, and then now with Louis the Child. But those like 6 tours in a row, where it just takes so long for me to actually get to know these artists and know these guys and how to take care of them. And I'm sure it's tough being an artist when you just want a tour manager who already knows you, knows what you like, knows what type of person you are.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, I'll get there, you know, but they want that right away. It's just understandable because it's their whole career. Like, things aren't going as smooth when I don't know them as well because I'm, you know, directly taking care of them every day, especially when it's a small crew. Like all those tours were.
The small things that will get somebody aggravated and the small things that will make their day 10 times easier.
I need to know that type of stuff because it's going to make my job a lot better. It's going to make their lives a lot easier, which is a big responsibility of mine, you know, make their lives smooth and easy. And I didn't really, it's so hard. It's so hard to learn them quick enough. Mm-hmm. So, you know, then I felt like all those tours in a row, like the Chef Special tour was like 12 weeks. And I had already known
12 weeks.
And we were open 21 for 21 pilots. Yeah. So I already knew those guys too, because they opened for Air. So that was great. I loved that tour because it was I already knew the guys when the tour started.
You already
got to know them better, you know, like 2 weeks in, I was like, knew everything about the dudes and we spent so much time together. We had such a good time together. So, you know, 12 weeks is like 12 weeks straight. It's like plenty of time to get to know somebody.
Yeah, plenty of time.
And so I knew those guys in and out on that tour, and it was great. And when you're in arenas and the big amphitheaters, and there's catering every day, and there's showers every day, and you know you don't have to worry about much. A lot of things are taken care of for you.
When everybody's like
jam
packed. Yeah. I'm sure you've done your fair share of those.
Certainly did. And those tours are fun too, but they've gotten older and older and harder to you know, get out there and make myself do because of the bigger tours that I've done. But you know, it's I would always feel bad for the artists, and I could see the frustration on certain artists' faces when I just didn't know what type of things they liked, or I didn't know what their last tour manager did, and they would kind of get frustrated with me, which is totally understandable on their case. But yeah, I'm always doing my best to make sure that people are happy and feel taken care of and feel understood. And you know, I think that was always the biggest challenge for me in between like Air and you know, I was with the Knox a lot earlier last year, and so I got to know those guys pretty well. So you know, towards the last few shows that we did in the summer, it was like super easy. Knew those dudes like the back of my hand, and that's when that's when the tours become, and working with the artists become a lot more fun for me. Is when it lasts longer than one quick tour. And I get to know these dudes or girls or whoever I'm out with, and I get to know and understand them through and through. And it makes my job a lot easier because I already know what to expect every day, and I know what they want to expect, and what they expect of me, and what they expect to be there, and how they like their gear set up, and how they like this and that and all that stuff. So I guess that's the frustrating part about hopping from artist to artist.
And so you're working with all these different artists, all very talented. They're all at the level where they can tour. Literally the dream come true for any artist, right? Yeah. You're going on the road for these long periods of time. You're going city to city. You're just continuously on the road. What has it taught you about yourself? Like, what have you learned from being on the road? I mean, you're going into, like you said, this is, I don't know if you said on the pod if this was earlier, but you're going to like your 6th or 7th year of tour managing.
I mean, 7th year, yeah.
You've seen, I would imagine, quite a bit of this country.
Every state, but North and South Dakota.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's incredible. What have you learned about yourself from being on the road for this long periods of time?
I mean, I've realized that I just kind of like taking care of people, and I like making sure that people are, you know, comfortable, and and I think that's why tour managing is it's not easy for me, but it's just it's in my personality, and maybe it's just becoming my personality because I have done it so much over the last 6.5 years, and I've realized that I thrive on like human connection, kind of
100%,
and I love, you know, making friendships that are gonna last
a lifetime,
however long they last. And you appreciate the ones that don't last that long anyways. And those teach you a lot about yourself, if not more than the ones that last forever. And I think those are the biggest things. And I've realized that I'm like, you know, a very positive person. I've realized that I like to make sure that other people feel positivity. And when, you know, I like to pull people out of their shells. Like that's one of my favorite things to do on the road, is because let's say you start a tour, you got all these people who don't know each other. I probably don't know everybody either besides the artists, or sometimes I don't even know them either. Some of them are quiet. Some of them might be more reserved at the start of a tour, but I do my best to pull their personality out of them.
Get everybody talking.
Get everybody to be friends, find out what people's mutual interests are, let people know that they like, I don't know, just work on other people
as a team,
make it become a family.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about touring, is because that's what's going to keep everybody sane. At least that's what keeps me sane.
Yeah.
And so I know like some of the older heads, they just like to go about their business. They don't care about being friends. Like old head tour managers are like, won't be friends with anybody because it makes their job harder, because then people expect them to do favors. And like, well, that sounds fucking miserable, you know? Like that sounds terrible. Yeah. And I understand, because they're right. It does. When you're not friends with anybody and you're just the tour manager, I mean, it sucks for sure. For me, I would hate that. I'd be miserable. It would definitely make your job easier.
The human connection is the job.
People wouldn't want to ask me questions.
Yeah.
And the human connection is a huge part of the job.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of tour managers don't realize that, or maybe do realize that, and that's why they become closed off like that. And they don't make people feel like they can't ask them questions or talk to them about anything.
I always think that, and once again, this is me going back to my little TMing days.
Whatever,
so whenever I
dude,
see tour
whatever.
manager, I say it so lightly, but I know for a fact that me and my homie Dylan are going to tour the world at some point. So I'll be an official tour manager. But that's one thing that I always told people, is that I'm like, listen, call me a tour manager, but that's not when I'm. From the little experiences I've had, I look at it as hospitality management. I look at it as making sure everybody's having a good time.
It's definitely part of the gig.
Everything's running smooth. That there's no issues. Oh, you need a drink. You need some food. I got you. Just the hospitality manager. That's what I always refer to it. I mean,
those are people. There's jobs like that on tour called production coordinators. It's just exactly
what that is.
And you know, on the lower levels, when you don't have production coordinators, a lot of that falls on me, or falls on whoever my assistant is. The two of us really tackle a lot of that stuff together. The few times that I've been lucky enough to have assistants, both of whom then became two of my best friends in separate tours. Crazy. Yeah.
Just from the touring.
A lot of just from the touring, working together, spending time together. There's people on the road that first you start just working with them and living with them, and then you start to become friends with them and hang out with them, and then you're doing everything together. You brush your fucking teeth in the mornings with them, yeah. And if you're like, you're not scummy enough to not brush your teeth, and you get a lot of, you're so in sync with these people. You do everything together. You even start, and you have jokes and slang that you come home from tour with that nobody knows what you're fucking talking about. Yeah. You're like, what's a what? What
are you talking about?
Dude, I didn't understand you speaking English right now. I didn't understand a single thing you just said.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, that's part of touring that is something that people don't always understand when you think about it, is that you also you hang out together too. You do everything together socially,
How hard is it for you to like transition? Because you're just coming off of, how long was this tour with Lose the Child?
So 11 weeks.
11 weeks. It's a different world.
Yeah.
It's like a different reality.
It is a different reality. You guys
are sleeping on buses, you're hanging out, drinking, doing whatever you want as long as the job gets done. Mm-hmm. How are you able to just come back to real life and go to the grocery store and come back and make a meal for yourself and go to sleep in your own bed?
That's the grocery shopping is the thing that, and like cooking for myself has always been the biggest adjustment getting back from tour. I'm like, wait, what do you mean I can't just order food for everybody?
Where's our food? Where is it?
What do you mean there's no catered dinner? Like, what do you mean I have to go and buy groceries and with my own money and cook it? That part has always been hard for me to adjust. And the sleep schedule, when I'm home for a while, I'm waking up 6:30, 7:30, and I'm going to the gym, and then I'm easing into my day and doing work all afternoon, and then running some errands, whatever it is, go out with friends. But usually, honestly, I would only go out on the weekends, and I would just chill at home, go to sleep at like 11:30, keep it quiet. And that's what happens to my body when I stay home. Like I become like your normal 9-to-5 type person, and it's a great sleep schedule to be on. Yeah. But then I go on tour, and I'm waking up an hour before load in, 45 minutes before load in, whatever time that might be, 10, 11, 12, and usually working late till 4 a.m. on this last tour. On this last tour, it was a lot of 2:30, 3
was the earliest.
Like those were like the earliest times I'd be done, 2:00 at the very earliest.
So those
like early shows.
You're not in the green room just popping bottles, having a grand old time.
I used to definitely pop bottles in the green room whenever I could.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I love to have a good time. I'll if it's the day before an off day, I'll definitely have a great time.
Yeah.
Definitely have some drinks with everybody. Usually,
but it's work.
I can't I can't be getting drunk.
Yeah.
Being hungover. It's not even the getting drunk part. It's the being hungover and being tired part, and not getting your 5 or 4 hours or 6 hours of sleep, whatever it is. Like, you need that to be nice and peaceful. And I definitely need a drink or two to wind down at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Just after a long day of 5 cups of coffee.
Just keeping it moving.
Yeah. And I think that adjustment of getting back off that schedule where I don't need 5 cups of coffee every day, and I don't need to sleep until
slow it down a little bit.
I don't need to sleep until noon or 11 on my off days because I'm rested enough at home. I don't need to, getting back in the gym has always been the hardest part for me after a tour, and it doesn't not get any easier as you get older, which is the one thing that I'm looking forward to one day when I'm no longer a tour manager. Get up early, go to the gym, the simple things,
I'm starting to appreciate that more now that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, right? You know what I mean? And it's the things you don't think you'll miss, but those are the things I do end up missing. It's just like the little things the personal time that I don't get on the road that I get at home.
Yeah.
The TLC, the time, love, and care.
So now you're locked in with Louis the Child. You're their official TM. This is now a full-time gig. You're not going to just be popping around from artist to artist. You have something that's more cemented.
Yeah, I'm sticking around with them the whole year.
So I'm surprised by what you just said. Not surprised, but I'm more curious as to what do you think the game plan is for in a couple months, maybe in a couple years. You said tour managing it. Eventually there's a meeting to an end.
Yeah,
what would be the next step? Because you're locked in with somebody that's very talented. They're doing great.
And I have no intentions of ending that anytime soon.
Absolutely.
We're just getting started. I've just been with them for about 7 or 8 months, and it's working really well. So they're going to be busy all year. I'm sure they're going to be busy next year. So we lock it in.
Yeah.
Love working with the team and love working with the boys, and they've all become like a second family, which is great because that's not easy to find. And it's not like I'm looking forward to that ending, but I'm definitely looking forward to one day being able to step out of the touring. It doesn't, I could still work in touring, and I'm sure I will, but just not on the road.
Not on the road.
Yeah.
Overseeing it, like different tour managers,
touring
what
director,
they're doing.
maybe. Yeah. There's a lot of different, I'm trying to start thinking like a manager. Like maybe I want to be an artist manager. So I'm trying to start thinking when I end up in these situations or conversations with, LTC's manager or my other manager buddies, I try to start thinking like them and how they would address, when they're talking about whatever they're dealing with at the time. Like I try to think like, how would I approach the situation? What kind of decisions would I make? Like, oh, how would I brand this? How would I market this? And I'm trying to start thinking like that just to see if it feels right and see if I think that I have good ideas. Because maybe I want to be an artist manager, and I don't want to, be a booking agent, but I feel like I could provide some helpful information to booking agencies somehow. Yeah. Because a lot of them have never been on the road; they just book tours, and I have toured extensively, so I have all this value in that world that a lot of managers and agents and business managers, they don't. A lot of them have never toured. And I think that's part of why I feel like I could be a good artist manager, because a lot of managers will put their artists out on tour on these crazy routed tours that don't make any sense and could be routed more financially efficient. And I feel like I could save money and time and stress for artists by like not confirming certain dates or confirming different dates, because I know how to do all that stuff, and I know what makes artists happy, and versus, and how they actually feel on the road. Because, they'll see their manager, they'll have a phone call with their manager, and they'll be like, yeah, all's good, whatever, pretty tired, but blah, blah, blah. And but I'm actually out there with the artists, and I see them every day, and I see how they actually feel, and I see how they actually react to certain things. And when they have questions like, why are we in this city and then driving 500 miles back the way we just came to go to this next city, and then
any sense.
Zigzagging across America? Or just when agents put you in some venue that you just have no business being in. Yeah. And they're like, well, they had a better guarantee, and it's like, well, maybe the other venue had a better stage, and the show could actually be better. Or, when you're not hurting for cash, like that's a decision you can make. Yeah. And those are the type of things. And I feel like later down the road, I think 10 years is would be the max. That'll make me 28, 29. and that'll have been 10 years.
That's a long time.
And that's a long time. And late 20s, about to be 30. Like I have a lot of buddies who've done that, and they're still loving it, still great at their jobs, still have the passion for it, still have the positivity. But I don't know if I just want. I know I can do that, but I just don't think that I want to tour when I'm 30. You know, and I've always kind of felt that way. I always felt like I'll ride it out until, you know, it reaches a point where. Like, look, man, I'm almost 30. Like, maybe I want some kids. Maybe I want a family and some kids.
With it. Right, exactly. Yeah. This is the time to be just on the whim, just going on these tours and working with these different artists and just seeing the country or Europe or.
Yep.
This is the time to just take this leap and ride with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, especially with the Louis the Child guys right now and how they're buzzing so hard and how, you know, the places that we're about to go this year. And, like, you know, we're doing Europe in February, South America in March, Coachella in April. They just announced a Red Rocks show today. For May. So
that's huge. Red Rock.
Yeah, co-headliner. So it's gonna be super sweet. Really excited. I've been there a bunch of times with openers, but never been there
to be directly working, you know, for something like
the
that.
Headliner. You know.
Wow.
Which is really exciting. It's gonna be super cool, and you know, being able to have these experiences, like I could never walk away from all this stuff because it's all this type of shit that I've been working towards for the last
long time.
6.5 years. And, you know, I'm really grateful for these guys for putting me in the position to where, you know, they appreciate me long enough to where they want to keep me around and not like just, you know, don't really care that much or whatever it is. And for taking me along for this crazy ride that we're about to go on this year. I know there's so many other things that aren't announced yet that I can't talk about, but
we'll be getting
that are going to be even more awesome. So,
a lot of things. It seems that it's taken a long time to get to this point, and things have, you know, all just kind of like stepping stones, right? With the Air, then opening up the door to Hoodie Allen, to then all these other artists, and now finally getting to Louis the Child. So clearly, like, it's been like this path. You're 25 years young. You know, we know that at some point maybe step away for the tour managing. We'll cross that line down the future. But are you happy with where you're at right now? Or are there any big regrets that are jumping in your head? Like, I should have went to college more. I should have.
No, you know, I think my only regrets lie back in the day when I kind of like just didn't, you know, understand that I was much smarter than I was when I was younger.
So not believing yourself.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't have confidence in myself as like a teenager. But how many teenagers really do? You know, not that many.
It was a stepping stone for me to
all of us
get that confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even become a confident young adult until I was in my like maybe 22. Like that 2014 was the year I really found that confidence. End of 2013, 2014, really found the confidence in myself to just really started to understand who I was and who I was supposed to be. And that, you know, that was a big step for me that year. 2014 was like the first big step. You know, I really didn't make much money ever until like 2017. I really was just making about like getting by. Just
to get enough to pay the bills and put some money in your pocket.
Help me move out. And after I saved for a couple of years, and that was, I mean, all like, it was I've met some tour managers who just start out and they're on bus tours, and I can't imagine how difficult certain things are for them because things are so much more new and they don't have a scale for what things were like. Like I started in a car, like my mom's car, and then we went and the Air guys bought a van, and then we did like some fly dates for festivals and college shows, and then we bought a trailer, and we got a van and a trailer, and then we started touring in a bandwagon, which is trash. And I hope that artists don't have to tour in them because they're so hard to sleep in. And but we did that. We did a bunch of them. We did a bunch of bandwagon and trailer tours, and we did some sprinter tours, and you know, we went to Europe and we were in like a minivan, you know. Then Hoodie Allen, we're in a bus and a semi. We're in a bus and a box truck, and then you go and work for on one of the Hoodie Allen tours. You open for Fall Out Boy and Wiz Khalifa, and you see how the bigger side of things. You see like, oh, there's 12 or 13 buses and 11 trucks here on this tour, and then you know, and you're like, wow.
Wiz has like his own bus. Well, you know, Hoodie has his own. Fall Out Boy has their
Fall
own.
Out Boy had like two or three buses. You know, those dudes have been doing it for so long, and so you've got like the 4 or 5 crew buses. and DJ Drama's bus. And it was all just like, I'm like, whoa, this gets really big. And then I hear about my friends who've toured and like with Bieber and Ariana Grande, and that's just a whole another level. Yeah, and so you realize like how big the scale is, and it's kind of daunting. But it's I think we strayed away from the original question a little bit, but whatever. Yeah,
cool. I like it. I like it. You're appreciating that journey more than somebody that's just stepping in too as just the TM for these bigger scale.
Which is, I'm sure. I mean, that what an opportunity that is, and not throwing shade against anybody who's had that opportunity, but I felt like a lot of who I am now as a tour manager is because of the little steps that I took to get there.
Yeah,
and how many little steps it took to get there.
Takes a lot.
Yeah, and I just would say yes to pretty much any tour.
Yeah. Whether good, bad, funny, random, what is something that you think most people might not know about you?
That's a good question. Might not know about me. Damn.
Anything. Could be something about your childhood. Could be a story that
I got.
Don't get yourself in trouble with the police or something.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's happened. Yeah. So, don't know about me.
Yeah.
I used to have. I mean, back in like when we started. When I started with the Air Days, and we didn't really have. It was just the three of us and all of our friends who were in college. I used to rap so much.
Did you?
Yeah, I used to have. We just used to freestyle for hours and hours and hours. I had bars. I really did. No, I haven't rapped.
We could get it going after this. We could hit the studio, maybe.
Yeah, some sway shit. Some sway in the morning. So change the culture of the podcast.
I like it.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really do that shit anymore. But I mean, I probably could do it a little bit. But I used to have a couple verses recorded.
Wow.
With Carter and Dave, where we used to just like get drunk in Carter's room in Brighton, Massachusetts, and because you can't go out to the bar with fake IDs in Boston.
They'll rip you apart.
They'll take your shit. They'll arrest you.
No,
you really can't. And so we just like all our friends were in college. We'd just sit in their room, like make some music, make beats, and just rap, like drink. I think we were so broke at the time. We were probably just drinking like Old English, or like some.
$250.
Yeah, $250 for a 40. Yeah. That might be one of the few things. I'm sure if I thought a little deeper, I could provide something that's a little bit more current.
I got you. But that is something that a lot of people don't know.
People don't know.
I got to the point where I had an album cover, not an album.
Really?
Cover. I tried rapping too.
Like a project.
I don't even think I ever recorded one track, but I was like, I gotta get like a cover art made up, and it said like B-Hope's The Prodigy,
dude, I didn't
headphones
get to the
on
point
with the BlackBerry like against the microphone. I thought,
of course, you're like, there's me in the stew, I got bars.
Facebook profile. It was that official. I had it as a Facebook profile picture.
So good. I love it.
Yeah,
dude, it's hilarious. I mean, it was fun. It's fun to rap and it's fun to freestyle, and some people make a whole career out of it, which is sick. But
it's all about having a good time.
It's all about having a good time. That's why I did it. And when recording verses stressed me out, and so I was like, clearly not a thing for me.
Yeah. If I gave you a token today, right, and you could call anybody, any of your friends, maybe somebody that you've worked with in the past, and you had to thank them for something, who would you call?
That's a great question. Now we're getting to the good questions where I really got to think about it.
I like these.
Well done, Bobby. Yeah. I think I would call. I had my babysitter's husband that I had growing up. I would call him. Yeah, because he was like father figure to me. Yeah,
really?
I would just thank him and let him know how important he was.
What about him was like a father figure to you?
Well, my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, so he became, he was always, and I had the same babysitter from 3 months on to she just stayed till I graduated high school.
Wow. Okay.
And so he was there the whole time too, and so he would come over like once a week every Thursday because he got off work early on Thursday, and we would just like, we'd play catch. We'd just do like standard, father-son shit that I didn't get the opportunity to do very often. So, he taught me everything about baseball, taught me how to be a responsible man, taught me all the things that a father is really supposed to teach you. And, my dad was working on another family, but he, would pick me up from baseball games, always came to games when he could, just like the little things like that.
Yeah.
And I always looked up to him for that and worked hard, worked super, started his own, like he's got his own painting business and
wow.
Just respected him and his grind and his, like the way that he, he was always so positive and, such a kind person. And, he responded to every situation that I saw him get into, if it was stressful or, anger related, he always responded with like a level response. And I think that those are things that I haven't exactly, I've said things like this to him before, so it's not like I've never expressed my gratitude, but things like that, little things that I've realized as I've gotten older that I saw from him and that I learned from him, just, he's an older guy. He's in his 70s now. So those are the type of things you got to tell those people. So maybe you just reminded me to tell him.
send this through to him when it comes out.
I will.
Were you able to kind of, I don't want to say build the relationship with your actual father over the years, or was there ever, did the communication line ever open up?
A little bit over the last few years when I started touring. He lived in Arizona, now Florida. So it opened up a little bit more when I was just find myself in Arizona 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
So I started seeing him a lot more, which was
good or bad for you?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, I think there's no reason, mind you, when you're young and your parents get divorced, you're always pissed at like probably both of them, and then you realize like, I've realized one thing I also realized through this whole thing with my father is you don't have to spend all your time. You spend all this time being pissed off at somebody, and it's just like it doesn't. What
are you benefiting from it? From being that pissed off?
Absolutely nothing. Yeah. Absolutely nothing.
What's done is done.
You can go on from as large a scale as like a father, or as small a scale as like one of those friendships that I had that didn't last very long, or but was great while it lasted, like I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And either way, like you can learn something from it, and like I held no grudges. I don't think there's anybody that I hold a grudge against, even the people that have fucked me over or wronged me or talked shit behind my back. Anyway, and once I realized that all the time I'd spent pissed off at my dad, like was just kind of holding me back, it was really, that was a great time for me. And I think that I'm great. This is another thing that I'm grateful for touring about, because it would have taken me a lot longer to come to this realization had I not started seeing my dad and like putting it on a pedestal. I'm like, oh shit, well, we're going to Arizona on this tour, so
might as well
gotta see my pops.
Yeah.
I'd put it on a pedestal. I'd get anxious about it. And after a couple of those, I was like, you know what? What's done is done. We're moving on. Got to be an adult, accept it, move on, let myself just like be friendly with my dad.
Yeah.
Not like ignore his calls like I used to when I was like 17,
Yeah. Which I get 17, 18.
Especially that's when it culminates too.
You're starting to understand what has happened, but you're also like, I don't care. I don't need this person. I'm just going to do what I need to do and screw this person. They weren't in my life. I don't need them.
Exactly. And I think once I got over that and moved on to the next phase of not grieving, but just like acceptance, I guess would be the right.
Yeah.
If you're going to label the phrase something or label that phase something, acceptance, and then moved on. And I've honestly been a much more positive person.
Yeah.
Much more positive, selfless person since I put that shit behind me.
Yeah.
How
important is that to you? Because I am somebody that literally on a daily basis, I just try to continuously be positive.
Absolutely.
Like I'm driving over here today and I'm in my mind, I'm like, how great is it that I live in Los Angeles right now? I'm about to drive over to sit down for a great conversation. I'm my own boss. I drive Uber out in LA. That's how I pay my bills. I work on my own time.
Yeah.
I'm healthy. My family's good. I have nothing I should be able to complain about. But I find myself doing this on a daily basis because even when you have so much positive stuff going on in your life, it's so easy to just check all of that off for one small thing that isn't going the right way. So how do you stay so positive? Because clearly it's in you, and you've brought up the word positive a lot in this podcast, which I really like.
Yeah, I mean, I try to like emanate positivity a little bit. I might have resting bitch face, but I'm pretty positive, dude. I mean, I think it's just important to appreciate what you do have and not focus on what you don't have. And that's that's so simple, and people tell you that all the time when you're growing up. Elementary school, they probably tell you that every fucking week, but it really is true. And the more you focus on all these things that you missed out on, you're like, for me, like, let's dial back to the dad thing. Like, you look at another kid with a great dad, I'd be like, man, fuck that. That dad's dope. You know, like, you know, you get all jealous about it, but like, whatever, you know, it's not that big of a deal. And when you start to let go of things like that, you become less selfish, because when you hold on to the negativity and the things that when you focus on the shit that you don't have or the shit that makes you mad, you become more selfish, and it makes you feel like you need to do more things for yourself. It makes you feel like the world is against you. And, you know, this is such like a teenager thing, you know, where some people make it last their whole lives. Yeah. It doesn't have to be just a teenager thing, but that's when I started to feel those negative, like really negative feelings, and just like get pissed off all the time and pissed off so easily. And I'd hold on to that anger, you know? Yeah. And the sooner you realize that, like, you just got to let it go. And it's not like I don't ever get pissed off.
Yeah. You're going to go through your own
emotional things. I get pissed off. I was probably pissed off like 4 days ago. And then I, you know, take a couple deep breaths, drink some water, whatever, walk it off.
Take a step back.
Yeah, I live in LA, you know, step outside. I don't live in Mass anymore. It's not snowing and 0 degrees. And I really just think the biggest part of it all is not grudges, negativity. It's going to happen. You're going to want to hold a grudge, but you got to just let it go and realize, you know, understand what went wrong. Why did this happen? Take that, learn from it, understand it, move on from it. Yeah. You know, you're always going to run into a similar situation where you can look back. Don't forget about it. You know, understand.
You have to learn.
Remember,
there's something that you have to take away from it.
Absolutely. And you're going to be able to apply something that you learned from that situation onto a future situation that you find yourself in. And I think that that's the biggest part of, you know, experiencing negativity and how to transform it into positivity.
Exactly. Take it in, translate it into something that's positive, something that you can learn from it. Yeah. That's what I always say is Google whatever Translate negative. It. Yeah. Google Translate. Take that negative bullshit, take it in, and then spit out something positive. There's always something positive that you can find within that situation.
Exactly. It pisses some people off that are close to me. They're like, why the fuck are you always so positive? Yeah. You just be pissed off. I'm like, you know what? I am a little pissed off, but it's fine.
You're not gonna see it. Yeah. I'm just gonna keep it moving.
Yeah. I heard some tech at a show we did the other day go, hey man, everything good? He's like, yeah. And if it wasn't, you wouldn't know.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Yeah. He said, if it wasn't, I would still say yes. Yeah. And I was like, for sure.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche. Like, hat off to you, man. Hat off to you. What do you think Michael Trueblood's purpose is?
Ooh. I always felt like my purpose, you know, going back to human connection, I always felt like my purpose is to just make sure that, you know, provide other people with some sort of happiness or facilitate happiness in some regards towards other people. Like, that's watching other people become happy for, you know, whatever reason. If it's something that I helped happen, then hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. You know, there's this girl, for example, Gia, we met her at on the LTC tour. We met her in Portland, and after the show, the LTC boys signed some stuff. She asked Robbie, she's like, hey, like, I wanted to do something in Washington tomorrow, in Seattle for, like, I want to go on the Space Needle. It wasn't the Space Needle. I wanted to go on, like, there's this Ferris wheel out on the pier in Seattle. And she's like, it's like super legendary in Seattle. And she was going to be there. She's like, I want to go out there with you guys. Like, I have like this rare form of sarcoma. And she's like 18, 19, 20. I didn't catch her age. We hung out with her a couple times. Mm-hmm. But the guys were like, yeah, and, you know, talk to Mike. And so I worked it out with her and planned that at a time, and just, like, you know, saw some videos from our guy, Colin, who went out and did you know, just filmed some stuff and just took pictures of the whole thing for her. And, you know, just so that everybody could experience it. And she's just like, the way, like, she was so positive and just so happy about the whole thing. And just like seeing, you know, that, I don't know, just being able to facilitate something like that. I just like, and that's, you know, I don't know how I'm going to translate that going forward once, you know, tour managing's ended. Cause I get these opportunities to, you know, maybe I facilitate an engagement or, you know, like something like that, which is the best experience that I've been a part of since I started touring. And I'm grateful for her to that. So if she ends up checking this out, then thanks to you. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I don't know though. The purpose is ever changing. So currently that's how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you ever have to specifically have a certain purpose in, you know, what your career path or why you do certain things. But actually, I think you do have to have a purpose for why you're doing things, but
Absolutely.
more so, like, what is the overall picture? Yeah. You know, like what's like no matter what you're doing, whether it's tour managing, whether it's, you know, maybe getting into artist management one day, I guess the purpose of what it sounds like is just making sure that whoever the human connection you are working with is making sure that they are having the best time
in whatever way they can.
In whatever way they can, and making the best of whatever situation.
The smartest, best time, and making sure I can teach people certain things. And just the purpose always changes for some people. For me, it always has changed. You know, it always a different goal, different set of goals and purposes that I have to fulfill. But and I think that that's part of what makes life exciting, is having different purposes and finding different ways.
Interesting, man. You're always on your toes, just keeping the head on a swivel.
Keep yourself uncomfortable type of thing.
Before I get into the closing questions, this is when I reverse the role. I allow my guests to ask me any one question. 2 rules. 1, cannot be about the podcast. And 2, it cannot be a question I asked you today.
Okay.
So it could be anything you want to know about me. It could be any type of question you might have. 1 question, fire away.
Okay, so this is not 100% related to the podcast, but when you're looking for somebody to bring on a new guest, what is it about it, you personally, that draws you to your selection?
Great question.
Yeah.
Because it's not directly the part of the podcast. You're good. You're good.
I got you.
You know, and I'm glad you're asking this question, because I get people that ask me this a lot, and maybe I can like just cut it in soundbite and send it to people when they ask me this, because it's so hard. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like a feeling, an energy. You know, when I was telling you before was like when I was launching this, which I think is really important for anybody listening, whatever you're trying to do, you have to not necessarily know what the end goal is, but you have to have some type of a picture of where you're trying to go. You need to know where you're headed to get to there, to get to where you want to be. So when I was launching the podcast, I always knew I wanted all these different types of passions. I definitely was more interested on like the entertainment industry people, because to me, that's just my personal interest. I like music, and I want to know about everybody within that world, but I also want to know about the fitness trainer. I want to know about the person who's written a book. Excuse me. So I've always had the end goal of knowing I want to get all different passions. But when it comes down to guests, you know, one thing it always ends up being is, what does this person do, and am I super interested in learning more about it? Are they associated with a group? Who have they worked with in the past? Who are they working with currently? Not to be selfish, but it's almost like, what are my interests and what do I want to learn more about?
Of course.
You know, there's everybody in this world, 1, has a story to tell, 2, has their own passion. So in reality, anybody fits on this podcast.
It's true.
What does Bobbbaaaay want? Like, what stories does he want to capture? Because at the end of the day, it's and I say this lightly, it's my podcast, very lightly. I'm not, you know, some ego-driven dude, but I just look for people that are doing, in my eyes, really interesting stuff. They're working with people that I think are super dope, or there's somebody like yourself who I've just seen from afar over the years. Somehow, some way, your name popped up, or like I said in the beginning of the podcast, when we met with Air back in 2011, you know, and it's so weird to even just be here today, sitting in your apartment with Carter, as 2 guys that I had met 5 years ago, and me looking up to you guys, like, yo, these guys, with my homie Dylan, like, yo, these guys are touring, like, these
here
guys
we
are what we want to do.
Both pleasure to be on your podcast.
And this, you know what I mean? It's crazy how things, you can't, what does Steve Jobs say? I always quote him. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to guests, man, you know, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a passion. It just comes down to, do I see an angle and something that I maybe haven't covered before? You know, I've had a bunch of artists on the podcast, but there's something different about every artist.
Absolutely.
I feel bad that sometimes I don't have like a certain guideline that everybody I could just send out to people. Though. Yeah, there doesn't need to be.
You're a relatable guy, and people, I feel like you, just judging off the conversations that we've had today, you know, you see a lot of, you understand what a lot of other people, you're asking questions that people want to hear answers to. Like, you know, not just like, you know, I see all these artists do interviews and they'll be like, yo, so how'd you get your name? Like, how's tour? Having fun on tour? tell us a tour story.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever going to tell you the crazy tour story.
Yeah.
You know?
Never.
Because
like,
those are the ones that nobody
record.
tells. Yeah. Come on. You know, it's the same way that you're not asking me questions like that. Oh, so like, what's tour managing like?
Yeah.
You know, oh, it must be like so cool to just party with the band. You know, like, come on, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I want depth, man.
You want depth.
I want depth.
You know, that's what people want to hear. People don't want to hear that same bullshit they hear on every other interview. And you know, these are questions that young people who I hope are watching and listening to this podcast, that they can, you know, those are the young people are the ones that these questions, hearing these answers and hearing these, you know, inspiring stories, or what has brought people from high school to what successes they've found, you know, and that's like, I feel like that's a great thing that you're providing for these people. And I hope that we can get some more of them to listen and keep building up. Yeah. Cause it's really dope. And
I really appreciate
I've enjoyed this. Yeah.
Dope, man. Yeah. And like I said, this has just been, it's just been cool. Cause you know, just seeing the journey of Air, and then I can't say enough just to be here today. It's weird. And
full circle.
I find myself pinching myself every single day, because I'm living I changed my Instagram bio the other day to, I used to have like the pin of like Los Angeles, California, and I changed it to a little palm tree, and I said, living the dream in LA. And I don't know if people are going to come across that and think like, is he being sarcastic, or, you know, everybody says they're living the dream in LA, but I am. And it's a reminder to me that I'm living where I've always wanted to dream to live. And I'm also fortunate to have found some type of direction in my life and currently working on it. And that is so important, when you can find a passion or something that is greater than you that you can work on. Yeah. That's when all of the free time, and I don't even call it free time, but all the sitting around and just kind of shooting the shit, wasting time, that's when it feels great, because you have a purpose. And one quick little side story is, I was so happy I met this woman. I met a woman the other day through Uber. She got in my car. Maybe it's me being selfish once again, but she had just turned 30. And she said that the biggest realization she had turning 30, she had no regrets, but she kind of looked back at her 20s and questioned, was she wasting a lot of time? You know, a lot of those bender weekends, or a lot of those weekends just kind of going to the beach and sitting around and not really, you know, enjoying your life. But
what type?
She was asking herself, should I have cut back a little bit more and focused on what she's now passionate about? So, you know, when you meet people like that, and then you hear stories of the guests that I bring on, I guess bringing it back to the question you asked, is that it's important to find that thing, to find that thing that motivates you to get up every day, and know that it's not necessarily like you wake up and you know, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. What do you do in this moment? Like, what makes sense to you in this moment? And if it makes sense, then do it.
Absolutely.
Closing questions. I want you to imagine, you brought the 10 years earlier, so it's funny you're asking this, because I always ask this question. But picture frame on the wall, 10 years from now, you're in it. Who else do we see in it? Where is this picture taken?
Shit, you probably see, like, I'm in the photo. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, one of my hobbies is photography, so I always I got my little film camera out, taking photos of other people.
Beautiful.
But, man, I'm probably at the Grammys with whatever homies just won a Grammy. We're fucking celebrating. Yeah. I'm fucking, they're drinking champagne out of the Grammy, you know, like when Jay-Z drank Remy out of his Grammy or something like that. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna be. It's gonna be right next to one of my boys' platinum plaques that they gave me for the work that we all did on the record.
Dude, I love it.
That's where we're gonna be. Love it. Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media?
I'm on the gram at Trueblood Michael. I'm on Twitter at Trueblood Mike. That's all I got.
Most fire last name, Trueblood. Yeah, people know that's his actual last name. That is not
lucky one.
That is not just a made up name.
You won't forget me.
You won't forget me. Before I ask the last question, thank you once again for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to break down your story and to give insight and
an absolute pleasure.
And elaborate on what the journey has been like. And I'm only imagining more success along the way.
I'm excited,
especially with this new Louis the Child full throttle connection.
Yeah, we're sending it. So
man. So
yeah,
thank you
Bobby.
Last question.
Yes.
What 2 to 3 pieces of advice would you give to somebody that's listening today, hasn't found their passion or purpose just yet? What would you say is the best 2 to 3 things they can do?
I mean, you gotta grab hold of anything that might interest you and just put a little bit more time into it. You'll find out at one point if it's the right thing for you or if it's the wrong thing for you. And finding the wrong thing, while it might be frustrating, is just as good as finding the right thing. You just narrow it down, keep pecking away, shaving away, and you'll find it. 2, you're going to learn a lot more from your mistakes than you are from your success, for sure. And don't let that control you, but let it, guide you. Yep. Let those mistakes kind of guide you the right way. Because I've made a shit ton of mistakes, and I'll be the first to tell you about all of them. Yeah. And I have no shame in any of my mistakes. And while some of them are terrible, and not terrible, but like just stupid, dumb, you're like, you did that? Yep, I certainly did. Yeah. It's the reason I don't do shit like that anymore. But people grow up, and part of growing up is making mistakes. And those are my 2 biggest pieces of advice. And third is, it's just not that serious. Whatever it is, it's just not that fucking serious.
Could be a lot worse.
Pissing you off, it's not that fucking serious, most of the time. You can't translate that to everything. Translate that to your little problems that you have each day. It's not that bad.
That's it.
It's going to be all right.
Michael Trueblood, man. Thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, brother.
We'll catch you guys next time.